Mission fucking accomplished. Goon Swarm is not a threat.
Good luck with your all's dumb nullsec war. Snuffed out number 1. Anunnaki Keep Star is next, and then come on.
There, then you were just going to fucking magically jump into EVE Online in a system, and it was just going to load, and nobody was going to call you fucking stupid later?
There's an Eagle fleet that has dive-bombed a Megathron fleet. This is the bravest shit I have ever seen in my life.
The best possible shot to do something to the Imperium, and you fucked it up.
I talked a lot of shit over the last couple months. It's time to fucking eat some. And I showed up here to eat shit. Like,
the reason that this keeps started and get contested, and I cannot make this up, is because of tie-dye.
Guess where goons are going to live after this war is over?
Current plan is 319, I believe, right?
Hell.
Hi, sick.
I can tell you very clearly, our Diplos didn't even fucking care. Like,
White daddy.
Welcome to another Sunday. Relentless. I'm sure everybody who's watching is watching this for that final bit of escapism before they have to start work tomorrow. I'm sorry I had to remind you. Just wanted to put you all in a bad mood, because when people are sort of, hateful, that's when they start really letting loose, typing, what they really think. And, that's extremely EVE Online, is for people to be mean to each other. We got a lot of incredibly mean people with us today. Let's have our regular hosts, Puce and Luke, give a little wave to the camera.
Where has this mood come from, Phantomite?
You're welcome to that's the name of the
show. By the way, welcome to Untethered.
Quite frankly, if you've clicked on this, you can see the title for it, which is right for once. And if you're listening later, you can see the title, or you've specifically typed. Remember, guys, you've specifically typed Untethered into the podcasting app of your choice.
Why is Font so angry today?
I thought maybe they would have searched for mean people, and this just came up, and they didn't.
He's mad because we made him change shirt.
You should probably go through who is here, because not everybody's on camera, right? So.
All right. Well, listen, I'm going to go through our guests in alphabetical order. Now, first of all, we have with us a CSM candidate. We have Cultitus Mando. Is this correct me if I'm wrong? This is your first time running, isn't it?
Yes, 100% is my first time.
Excellent. Well, why don't you let us know who you're with and what kind of things you'd like to stand for this year?
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm Cultitus Mando. I go by Colt. I'm a Pochven resident. I primarily do solo and small game content there and kind of around New Eden. And what I'm running on basically is just trying to get more content created for solo small gang and just kind of be an advocate for that playstyle.
Excellent. Thank you. This is a show that is very friendly towards the small gang aims. Ignore the fact that we've got Luke and Redline here. Me and Puce, we absolutely own them every single show. So we'll be continuing that.
And Redline doesn't still really question that theory.
We've also different show that we're on that I don't remember, or are you talking about this show?
Clearly, we need to keep a score through so that we can refer to it afterwards. Obviously,
I guess.
All right.
No, just to keep you honest at this point.
Hey, listen. We have also with us today a current CSM member. We have Dujek One Eye here. How are you doing?
Wow, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Listen, that voice, which I will say interrupting Dujek there, that is Drake Idon. You've heard from him before, so he's not going to get his chance to introduce himself during this. We're going to give the new people a chance. You sit down. Right, Dujek. What are you running for this year?
This year I'm continuing to work on new player issues in EVE. In particular, I think that there should be more for new players to do in shorter play sessions than there currently are, and more small to medium-term goals so that they get hooked on the big projects and wanting to put very long skill trains in their queue and stick with EVE for a longer period of time. I am also continuing work on trying to get as much player representation onto the CSM as possible. I'm going out and talking to a lot of people, hearing what they have for concerns and bringing it forward. And as my personal project, I am trying to bug CCP until they find an expansion in the future that they might be able to put weapon tiericide in so that we can have better ship balancing forevermore.
That sounds right up anybody who actually likes this game's alley. Thank you. We also have a returning face to this show again. We have Gideon Zendikar, a absolute brother to anybody who wants to mention the P word in this game. Gideon, welcome back.
Yeah,
Welcome
hello.
to your
I've
new
been here
campaign.
before, so a lot of people might know me, but I'm currently residing in Farah. I'm running mostly on the P-word projection issues. And I think it's not necessarily because projection is like the end all that I want to advocate for, but I want to advocate for changes in other parts of space. But the main issue is if I try to advocate for them, the projection issue immediately comes up as a problem that is going to make any other changes impossible or will lopside other changes.
That sounds like a reasonably balanced approach. Thank you. We also have a returning visitor, currently with his microphone muted, though I'm sure that's just for practical reasons. We have current wormhole-centric CSM member, Mick Fightmaster. Welcome back.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. Now, would I be right in guessing that you are running with your main goal being the betterment of the wormhole experience?
Damn, you are so good at this game. I swear. You got it. You nailed it right on the head.
So what kind of things are you looking to bring to CCP this year?
Well, I think we had a really good year for addressing a lot of like the longer standing complaints in wormhole space. We got an updated UI UX for like the wormholes themselves. We were addressing some issues that were existing in like C4s and C2s. We addressed like escalations in higher class space, which is great. It like kind of modernizes everything, right? But we still are lacking the gap between like our little skirmishes and brawls and full blown evictions. So we need kind of that middle layer to give us something to do that would enable and drive content within wormhole space and allow corps to kind of represent their corp culture inside of their wormhole, but not have to like mandate, a half a week long deployment to do an eviction just to try and get some content.
Excellent, excellent. We have one more candidate, another brand new candidate running their first campaign. We have Piet Weyoun here. Welcome to the show. Why don't you let us know a little bit about you and what you're running for this year?
Hi, my name's Piet Weyoun. I'm a fairly new player to EVE. I'm less than a year old in the game, so I'm quite the baby. My platform is quite simple, yet not well liked, but it's understandable. I'm running for CSM reform and more content for industry players, specifically some more hotkey additions to the game.
Some usability issues to smoothen the experience.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I tell you what, you're our last person in the list of guests today. Let's talk about this. I think it's difficult to debate the advantage that a candidate has if they're running for new player experience improvements. It's often very beneficial to be something of a new player yourself because you're the one experiencing what being a new player is like now. Now, a lot of people get turned away from the game by how difficult and perhaps impenetrable it is. But you've been playing for a good few months. What brought you to EVE and what's making you stay here?
Well, the thing that brought me to EVE was all the old trailers that they used to put out on YouTube. I thought they were some of the coolest and most cinematic trailers. And then after hearing that some of my real life friends play the game, I started talking to them about it, watching them play via Discord or YouTube videos, and it really drew me in. As a Star Wars fan and Star Trek fan, I was like, well, this is really the only good space simulator out there right now, so I may as well give it a try.
So what is, you're the best part of a year into playing the game. What would you say you do in EVE? What career path are you currently exploring?
Oh, I'm all into industry. I'm currently working my way up into my Orca arc, but for the most part, I'm focusing on industry and just mining, working with my corporation CEO on expanding our structure, setup, and whatnot.
This
Can I ask,
sounds like. Go on, you go ahead. Yep.
So this isn't like a gotcha or anything. So you say that you were enticed by the trailers, and your main playstyle is industry. To me, a lot of the trailers are PvP focused. I don't know if you also get that. Have you tried PvP? Is that something that you found you weren't actually sort of interested in? Is it something you're interested in doing later on?
So I have tried PvP recently in faction warfare. I'm really starting to like it. Obviously the loss of ships is the greatest learning experience for me. Losing ISK and losing ships helps me make better fits, better choices and whatnot. But PvP is definitely something that I want to get into. Whether it be not so much through our corporation, just because a lot of them are industry based, but through other alliances and whatnot, I want to get into the fight. As it's very interesting. It's more thrilling than sitting at my screen for X amount of hours mining and clicking compress over and over again.
Have you experienced the PvP shakes?
Not yet. Not yet. Like, the closest I've come was warping into a faction warfare site in a Thrasher as with not very many skills and seeing there be 3 other cruisers in there and then trying to very anxiously warp out quickly.
So, in a moment, I think this ties in Dujek with talking about how you can improve long-term goals for new players. But before we get to that, just an extra one, Piet here. So, you say it's low skills, it's a Thrasher, and you're looking to also improve the new player experience. Skills are one of the core elements, skills and skill training, one of the core elements of EVE Online. And it's also a bit of a daunting task, when you look at how long it takes to train the skills to fly the ships that you want to fly. Are there any sort of improvements to that system that come to mind that you might want to advocate for?
As far as improvements, there's really none because the skill training system in EVE is truly unique in that it's a one. No one else does it like that, as far as I know. There's obviously boosts that you get by spending money and Omega and whatnot, and getting boosters. But as for new players, looking at their skill queues add up like a receipt, the best bet is, or the best thing is to talk with members of the community, talk with people in local, see if someone's willing to take you under their wing so you train the correct things instead of training up to 5 in something right away when you might not need it, to save you some time and save you that hauntingness of skill training.
So I think that ties in nicely as Dujek, would I be right in thinking that, a daunting skill train is, something that's on your mind when it comes to, long-term player goals?
Yeah, I think it's fine to suggest to players that despite there being like 600 million skill points nearly, that a lot of it becomes side grades after you get into one thing. Like if you pick a Thrasher that you want to PvP with in faction warfare, like you can put a lot of skills into the Thrasher and it doesn't matter that you can't also fly a Catalyst at the same time, because that's not what you necessarily need to do. What I am focusing on, short of like advocating for a full skill rework, because that is something that definitely would happen on CCP's time and not ours, is making some of the skills that everyone has to have and everyone should have accessible in maybe different ways. I think that the Magic 14 have kind of overstayed their welcome in a way, because one of the things that I see when I train with newer players and I talk to them about like setting up their skill plans and stuff, like it is more exciting to get, to continue the example here, your Minmatar Destroyer 4 and your small projectile weapons 5 and stuff, like you're waiting a couple of days at a time to get like a tangible benefit, and then they go and they see a fit that they want to put, and then they're told like, oh yeah, but to fit that you actually need to get all the way up to like advanced weapon upgrades 4, but on the way you need CPU 5 and power grade 5 and all of those skills that don't actually like have a tangible benefit. They're pure gatekeepers. Like you do get the benefit of having a better fit, but those are relatively long trains for seemingly nothing to a completely new player. And when you can fly a ship, you feel like you can fly a ship, you can use all the modules, you can sit in the ship, like maybe your support skills aren't the best, you show up to a fleet, they say this is the fit that you should have, and you don't as a new player have the expertise how to adapt that fit, which uses better fitting skills than you have. So like you try to fit it up, your modules are offline, that's kind of a feel bad where you thought you could use it, but it turns out you can't because of skills that you didn't understand yet.
And to piggyback on top of that, right, as we have moved the Sino away from every ship to the now Hick and the Arazu, the Recons.
And the blobs.
And the blobs, yeah, but there's no argument anymore that there's a risk of new accounts immediately opening a Sino without any investment into those accounts. So that argument has fallen to the wayside to not just increase the base set. And that's why I agree, like, just increase the base set of the Magic 14 or whatever. Just so the fitting skills are so annoying to deal with for multiple reasons. For example, if I make a lineup for Spectre Fleet or for the New Pro Alliances I have seen in the past, and I made a lineup, I had to open Python with a max skilled alpha account, and I have to check if the skill set is actually correct, or I log in my max skilled alpha account just to check if the fit that I made is it actually workable for an alpha account. If everybody had at least the same fitting skills to most of the degree, if I can just make a fit and if I can fly it, then I know the other person can fly it as well, just because there's no longer this barrier of, okay, I need to check if the power grid management 4 is working or power grid management 3 is working for an alpha account or something like this. So I would say like the benefit is
the smallest
the risk is gone, right? Like the risk of somebody opening an account immediately, just getting the Sino working, not having any history, and using Sino accounts and using them like a throwaway tool has been somewhat mitigated with the restrictions to Recons, Blobses, and Hicks now. You no longer need to barrier the Magic 14, and that's that way I think there's no risk that I see for a veteran player if new players can have their skills.
I would pair this with a little bit, just one short comment to that. I would pair this with increasing the limit for when you can extract, maybe put some restrictions on extracting those particular skills, because what I don't want is for alpha extractor accounts to suddenly get 4 extractors instead of 2 every time they get free Omega. And secondly, like look into and limit the ability to have those like instant alpha army fits where like you put 1,000,000 free skill points into an account and then suddenly like everyone can like spawn a Ferox fleet out of nowhere or stuff like that. Like these things need to be looked at, but that is a part of the proposal.
I was going to say, if you take away the Magic 14, do you not raise the ceiling of what you can achieve on a alpha clone? Because if I recall correctly, when I was in Horde a long time ago, we were able to get pretty serviceable Tempests on an alpha at the ceiling, and it sort of brings that ceiling up if you start taking away the skill point sink that is the Magic 14.
There's 2 ways, because if they have the Magic 14, then it goes against their 5 mil SP, even if it's locked into say the level 5 parts in the Magic 14 are locked behind Omega. But also you could still time gate this, and if they completed, say, the tutorial and a mission chain or the epic arc, then as they're slowly doing it, they get those skills anyway. So there's still a significant time investment.
Yeah, I would rather have it behind activity than free.
I need to briefly interrupt. We'll come back to this, but I know that Piet has to go and do his CCP interview in 5 minutes' time. So thank you for joining us, and we look forward to you joining back with us after you've finished your interview. I'll announce to everybody so that they know that you're back as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
We'll see you shortly. Have a good time over there. All right.
Thank you.
Carry on. Sorry about the.
Yeah, so just
Yep.
just going back to it, the time gating behind some sort of content that only new players really do would make it so it actually actively benefits new players and not people who are just spinning up loads and loads of accounts.
At the same time, though, right? Like you cannot spin up, like you should not be able to pilot multiple alpha accounts in the first place. So I don't see the risk of massive multi-boxed armies because you would have to have actual characters.
I
spinning
wasn't
up a
really
new account.
referring. I was just
Yeah.
referring to people who are spinning up
So-
new accounts, which they're going to Omega.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it takes a big cost out because they're going to inject into that already. It removes some injectors that they have to spend on each time they do it.
Yeah,
For
the
sure.
thing with alphas wasn't multi-boxed big swarms. It was having all of your Omega pilots have an alpha clone which is stored somewhere close to content. So people used to do it for like high sec fights. From Null Blocks had like an alpha force in a station somewhere in high sec that was trained into using, for example, a Tempest, and then you just undock all those and go and bash a Keepstar or something.
It almost
I do
goes
get it to
into a
some degree, right?
projection. Yeah.
But if people have an Omega account, they have some alpha that is even worse at fighting. They just maybe there are like standings restrictions they go around with those alpha armies, but it's not like this is gonna favor them in an actual fight. So I don't see the massive issue there. To be honest, I do see a little bit of the issue if you have a massive amount of alphas that could extract skill points very, very quickly and put the extractors on market and crash the market in that way. So I would say there are more concerns in that direction than actually for the people actually just flying with an alpha account.
It would be
how
for,
many
like-
of you how many of you would use an alpha account for PvP if you can just use your main? Like that is very unlikely.
It's
for
about
most instances.
inaccessibility. Like you can have a null wormhole corp where you say to everyone in the Nullsec Alliance, put a Ferox in the wormhole. So it's like you couldn't have gotten into the wormhole in any other way, but you just have a character that is an alpha that always lives there. Or in the case of like you are at war, so like going through high sec to defend the TTT is a pain in the ass, but you just have an entire alliance worth of characters there. So like if somebody comes with like 10 Leshaks to bash your high sec market hub,
You can
show up.
already do that with alpha accounts to a certain extent, right? Of course, the fighting power would increase, but would it increase that much that it would make a significant impact? I think the ship restrictions already put such a damper on that sort of fighting power that you already have, that I don't think the having better fitting skills will increase the fighting power by such a degree that it will make a significant difference for an actual fight.
No, I don't think it's a significant. It's just like I think that it should be mentioned so that it's not forgotten and suddenly poses a problem. Yeah.
I have I have something which doesn't a thought that doesn't actually gel with my common ideology, and it builds off of the fact that right now it's been commonplace for a long time for very large groups to encourage their users to spin up a free account, get it let's say Ferox capable, and put it somewhere really far away so that they have a basic but still very large fleet of throwaway that they can log in when they want to do something really all the way over there. Now let's imagine in a world where I got my dream, Gideon got his dream, Puce got his dream, a number of the viewers get their dream, and projection is nerfed. Would that actually cause a lot of these very large groups to just double down on spinning up extra free Ferox accounts all over the place?
I think the impact of managing that is just harder than actually moving a fleet at this point. Like moving a battlecruiser fleet, even if you get NC Plexus nerfed, you still have wormholes, and the mass on wormholes with command ships is so high, and you have so much more fighting power with command ships from actual Omega accounts that you already have other projection tools that are much, much, much stronger than a Ferox fleet.
I don't think projection limits itself to just ANSIs in this case. Like I've been asking for a while for drifter holes to
Drifter
have.
wormholes.
Yeah, I think they're a little bit too powerful for the instantly finding a way to get from point A to point B across.
But there's a
templates.
significant difference, right? I cannot lead a soft campaign through a wormhole.
Shall we avoid going into this for
Okay.
the time being?
For a moment.
And shall I sort of maybe say, is it okay that alphas are absolutely capable of flying serviceable large fleet size ships?
Yes, like
Yeah.
I would have no problem fighting a 150-man Ferox fleet with, let's say, my adjacent group of 50 pilots, because I can just slam in nightmares and fight them, and because of the higher skill points, because of the bubblers that I need, because of the tackle they would require to tackle us down, they wouldn't have. They would at least have to have their accounts with Hugins and stuff like this. So all the
I mean,
support
they'll
tools
have
at
some of
least
those
need to be
because
Omega.
that's the minority support ships.
Yes.
Yeah, which they would have. They would have,
Yeah.
you know, a few people doing Omega
And
accounts to fly.
I
those
don't
properly.
mind fighting outnumbered, right? And if they degrade their fighting power by going with an alpha account, I'm happy to slaughter them. I don't think there's a massive issue with T1 fitted Feroxes really pushing out
I mean,
other people
can
from
we
It's not
larger groups.
T1.
Especially
Yeah,
if you can
I was going
just,
to say, can we get a fact
with so
check
many
on
projection
the
tools in the toolbox at the moment, not just anti-plexus, it is just not a strategic issue at any point.
Yeah, well, I will say, Redline, that you did actually miss.
I didn't.
You did
I
actually miss
didn't
because the
actually
word
miss
has
it
been
at all.
said
I did.
twice. The word
I
has been
didn't-
said twice.
What's the
Listen,
secret word, Phantomite? Tell me what the secret.
listen.
Tell
I'm
me
not
what it
going to tell
is.
you what the secret word is. I'm not
Tell
going to
me
tell you
what
what
it
the secret
is.
word is.
I don't think you know
But
what it is.
What I am going to do is
You think it's projection? It's answer
I'm
bluff.
going to ask if Mick would like to bring up something that he's looking forward to on his, as the best wormhole candidate, as the most universally liked wormhole candidate in a long time, what he's looking to, a change he's looking to encourage CCP to do in his inevitable second term.
Well, yeah, sure. So, for those of you who don't know, like wormholes are a very fun but also spooky place where you go in and you're limited on time, mass, and sometimes ship size, etc., on like what you can bring in and how you can choose your engagement profile. This idea came up as a result of a conversation I had back in April with the folks over in Wormhole UN, which is just a group of essentially leaders within Wormhole Corps and alliances that have the knowledge surrounding wormholes and their specific gameplay style, which to me was the most important part, that latter part there. The one that came up that's really been sticking with me has been this idea of the quote unquote J Hub or wormhole granary, which would essentially allow for the introduction of the first ever sync of wormhole resource materials in EVE Online, and it would also allow corps to kind of express their culture, if you will, within their wormhole. And by express their culture, I mean maybe they are heavily industrial focused. And so they put some items into this granary and it allows them the opportunity to have better ore anoms. Or maybe they really want to do moon mining. And so they can put something in that allows for some tweak on how their moons operate, terraforming, if you will. The whole idea is that this granary would be some sort of raidable structure where attackers could come in and try and steal the resources, and then the defenders would have to defend in order to keep their upgrades that they have associated with their system online or active. So we've gotten a lot from that one, and the second one is the secondary static or alternate static generator. The big one is everybody wants to have like a nullsec static that they can generate in and like go do content and PvP out that way. Maybe do some skyhook raiding, some other moderate or middle ground content generation. But right now, those are just items that are in the design phase and items that we're discussing about, and I would like to see come to fruition if CCP gives us the green light.
Well, very, very real question.
Mhm.
Is this not something that these groups should be moving to nullsec to do?
For which component?
for any kind of infrastructure, put your mark on it, shape the space as you want?
I think you could do it. I mean, truthfully, I think you could do it anywhere. You could even do it in HiSec to some degrees, not necessarily in the upgrade section. But the reason why people come to wormhole space is so that they can have an opportunity to avoid what we've seen happen in nullsec over the last 5 years. You know, the consolidation of space under specific banners or associations of groups having to be, you know, tied in with one group or another. I think
Isn't Wormhole
realistically,
consolidated much more than nullsec even right now with the C5s and C6 cartel? I would argue
Uh,
it's much more consolidated at the moment.
I would challenge your knowledge on that subject simply because we have more groups owning C5s and C6s today than we have for the last 5 years.
And how affiliated or unaffiliated are those groups?
Now, everyone in the C6s are affiliated as winners of the Wormhole War. To the victor goes the spoils, so there should be no surprise
we
there.
can just say affiliated. We can just say.
I think it's fair to
affiliated.
say that it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Like if there's not a big nullsec war with territory changing hands and the wormholers are not attacking each other's farms, that like we just need more reason why we have to go kill each other. Like not fighting because you're diplomatically tied or because it's a pain in the ass kind of amounts to the same thing.
So you know, diplomatic pain in the ass, that kind of thing. That's a valid, you know, part of playing the game. But you're saying that overriding that should be the desire to take what they have.
Yeah, and being able to get a fight, like as Mick is saying, like in wormholes, you can threaten to evict somebody, but if you don't follow through on that threat, they don't really need to put anything on the line to like deal with your coming and fucking with them. Like giving something to fuck with is what we need.
I mean, quite frankly, giving something to be messed with, is that not their citadels and their
but then you have to follow up days later. And
So Citadels is the timer-based thing, right? That you ring the bell now to have the content later. And what Mick is recommending here is something that you can instantly start content. So you can go into a wormhole. You can, you know, not in Tosis, but like, what do they call it in ESSs? Like tether or connect or something. Get a ping. You will get a reward if no one comes to show up, and if the person doesn't show up, they get some kind of detriment. So it's a content generator that is quicker than a timer.
Wormhole ESSs. I think he's
basically, yeah.
Right. In a way of like being able to, and how the content I would want to have generated, it's very similar to ESSs, but it's not ESSs because then you just won't see them. You won't see like activity in wormholes anymore. I'd rather have it so that people are like finding something that's beneficial to them, even if it's just something as simple as naming their system, right? Something that allows them to express themselves, express their corp culture, and be able to go in and say, you know, this is our home, this is how we've planted our flag, we've put X amount of resources into it. Now you can come and try and take it, but if you do, we're going to defend it. And the thing that's nice about it is since we're mass and time limited on all of our wormhole connections, we have situations where if I ref your citadels and like, who cares? Like the wormhole will be gone. So I have to decide to infill an entire fleet and sit there for maybe a fight in a day later, but then now I'm locked up and can't do anything else just for the hope that maybe you'll fight me. I just think that's bad content loop.
So here's a you know, I'm gonna say something. I'm going to give some criticism to it, and then I'm going to say the same thing that I said at the beginning. So the first part I'm going to say is that undoubtedly the existence of citadels and the ability to use them in wormholes has been beyond a revolution in terms of making it less irritating, making it easy, making it have, you know, timers that you can have big fights over. It has all these years ago when they were added, it absolutely was a huge boon to wormhole living, was somewhere that you could have a citadel that you could dock and store your ships and your items. That said, is that not exactly what allowed the number of sustained people in wormholes to expand to the point where they had no choice but to repeatedly band together if any of them were ever threatened. And then I will say again, it has obviously been fantastic for quality of life.
But the quality of life is the bigger issue. Like, we were safe in our passes, and passes arguably are way more dangerous than citadels ever will be, in that they automatically are capable of killing attackers. Like, you needed to be very, there wasn't no like bringing a couple of bombers and like getting a shield notification. Like, you needed to actually have like Logi and something more powerful, but not having to worry nearly as much about fueling and passwords and ships drifting off in space if somebody left them floating. Like, that part is
Yes.
the easier.
Of course, but of course, living in poses, the poses were limited in location where they could be put. They were limited in number, and they were limited in realistic capacity in how much stuff you could store, which is also a limit on how many people can live there. Citadels, of course, basically uncaps every single aspect of that.
And to piggyback on top of that, right, because you're asking for like a raiding mechanic and to put resources in. Somebody only puts resources on the line if there's something for them to gain if they put these resources in line. And what I would caution in wormhole space specifically, because you have all the crit, you can crit your connections and you can hold yourself into your hole, especially as the attacker is also mass limited. If there's a massive income source that now sits in wormhole space, that is not even like that can scale to infinity, or with the number of the wormholes that exist, because there's a lot of wormholes to not a lot
I don't
of
think
wormholes
anyone
here.
was proposing an infinity cap on
Yeah.
the resources, but okay, yeah.
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is like I would caution against a lot of income that passively accumulates, like let's say like a Skyhook system or something like this in wormhole space directly that would lead to a raid mechanic. Just because there are so many wormholes and the player base isn't that massive. Like I forgot the numbers. Is it like 600 C5s, 160 C6s, somewhere around this ballpark? And then you
in the ballpark,
you have,
yeah.
and then you have like multiple thousands in the C4, C3, C2s. If you wanted to advocate for that, and I can see why you would do that, I think there would also be have to be a discussion about then also limiting the number of wormholes in some capacity, just because the wormhole population isn't that large and there's a lot of wormhole systems.
It would be better to have it to generate stuff that you have to do in space, right? Because like, at least now if you're farming wormholes, you farm pretty quickly with your static close. Like, if you threw in minerals in order to get better mining sites, or threw in minerals to be able to like upgrade your moons in the system, you'd still have to like go out and do stuff. There just needs to be more undocking and
The
doing
one thing why the
stuff.
Skyhook works in nullsec is because you are not in 100% control when you're doing stuff. You just docking doesn't prevent your enemy from doing stuff. And what Mick wants is a mechanic where you can go into the enemy's wormhole and you're like, hey, do something and do it right now, not in 5 days. So you need something where you can connect and say, hey, you have to do something now. And it's not on your terms. You cannot just dock and avoid me. If you're not responding, there is a negative effect.
Gideon, is not the combat, the traditional combat sites in wormholes already exactly the I am out in space doing something mechanic?
But the farmers can just dock and wait for the enemy to pass by, and there's no benefit for
that's
me to.
that's a PVE design problem then, surely. I mean, do these
No,
sites
no,
not
it's not.
encourage
It's not.
people to bring
There's a
siege in
difference,
dreads
right?
and things? Wouldn't that
There's a
be good?
difference.
Yeah.
If I can avoid the fight and I just dock up, the hunters will pass by. There's no loss for me if I can avoid them. If I avoid the fight on a Skyhook type like mechanic, there is a loss to me. Even if I manage to avoid them, and there's also a benefit for the hunter. So if somebody now steals a Skyhook, so he at least gets a cookie and gets some ISK from it. So there is a
Hey
massive
guys,
difference.
I know I haven't talked at all right now, but I want to kind of piggyback on what Gideon just said here because it's actually something that I can talk about. I agree with him about this pretty significantly. In Pochven, there is obviously these multi-boxer fleets that go around running observatory flashpoints and generate like trillions and trillions of ISK, right? There's no reason for them to actually take fights and instead just dock up. In fact, that's a pretty big meme for Pochven people to basically say, oh, why are you docking up, dog? Why aren't you fighting me, dog? Well, it's because if an init fleet of 100 people or some such comes around trying to kill these multi-boxers, there's no actual reason to fight them. Just dock up, wait for the hunters to pass, because they can't keep that fleet up indefinitely. Meanwhile, you'll just log back on either on a new pack or in a different time zone after this fleet has passed. So yeah, I think that there is, like, what Mick is suggesting is like not, I don't know, from my perspective, not realistic based off what I've seen in Pochven.
Well, I mean, Mick, sorry, I know that sort of, the rest of us here have either been kind of tag teaming you on this or agreeing with you on this without letting you speak on it. But something I will say is that obviously, if this is a question of shaping your own space with infrastructure for content and for personalizing, and if you can't go to Null to do that because Null is a total hell blob, which obviously I completely agree with, then what is bringing sort of further entrenchment to wormhole space that is already ready to blew up at a moment's notice if somebody is notably threatened? Is this not just going to entrench wormhole space into exactly the same problem that nullsec has?
So let me maybe take a step back real quick and see if I can understand the points that y'all are trying to make. So
Sorry, I know it's a lot, yeah.
well, it's fine. It's but like what I'm talking about is not like like in Pochven, people don't have a reason to undock and fight because they can just dock and their stuff will still be there. My point is that if people don't undock to defend their granary, their J-Hub, whatever it is, then they'll lose the money, ISK, and resources that they've put into it, forcing them to start over from scratch. So they do tangibly lose the benefit that they've spent putting into this J-Hub upgrade, whatever it is. Now, in terms of evictions and other like sides of how wormhole relationships work, it can be multifaceted. People are going to be a lot more inclined to assist someone who is actively getting evicted, where their citadels and the entirety of their asset hangar is at stake, unlike any other area of space outside of Pochven where the few final citadels remain. And people will form up to defend that. But when it comes to like an upgrade, I do not anticipate there being blue packs associated with defending people's, supposed granaries. This is something that is supposed to be the sort of content that's allowed through a singular pass of a wormhole. If somebody rolls in, if someone seeds a fleet, if somebody, takes the time to infiltrate the corp and start, messing with the granary itself, whatever it is, that's the sort of behavior that we're looking to allow for when it comes to these types of conflict drivers, these types of content generators, things like that. It's not just that you can dock up and nothing bad will happen to you. Something bad will happen.
Okay. Just very briefly, I will say welcome to everybody who just raided from the CCP stream. Thank you for tuning into Untethered. If you're sticking with us, then we have with us candidates Coltitus Mando, we have Dujek One Eye, we have Gideon Zendikar, we have Mick Fight Master. We've also got Drake Idon with us, and very shortly we're expecting Piet Wayan as well, and we're just having a quick chat about some aspects of wormhole space. Thank you, Mick. Mick, I think I see where you're coming from, namely that this is sort of content that happens as people are, as people arrive, as invaders get there, rather than something that is going to trigger a multi-day response defense fleet.
Correct.
And like like I said earlier, I get the point, right, and I agree with you. I just would really caution, because wormhole space is that isolated, and there are so many wormholes that compared to the player base, that you really have to caution that that income source is not, because there is something to be defended and or something to be fought over, so it has to have some value, that income source is not gonna overshadow other parts of space. One of my points in my CSM campaign is risk versus reward, and I think for the majority of us, we do agree that there's an imbalance with risk versus reward at the moment. Like all the Nalsa candidates would point to their Retas not really making any money if you compare it to Abyssal Income, high-sec incursions, or other sort of new content that has been added. And I don't want to wormhole space to be another isolated area of space where people can self-isolate themselves into that again overshadows other parts of space. So
like the isolation while you're doing stuff is one thing, but if you like, it would probably not be like putting something in and getting something in shortly thereafter. Like if nobody's defending their granaries, but everyone has granaries, hypothetically, a new type of just rage rolling, getting into a new hole, stealing the granary, getting out, rage rolling, and doing that again over and over would become a viable playstyle until there's some sort of balance there. Probably.
yeah, but like I said, like it needs to be balanced in some way with the income source, because wormhole space is a good income maker. And like if I look into my core with somebody who wants to print a lot of money and he doesn't go into nullsec, he doesn't go into lowsec, all he does is he goes into some C5 C6 alliance, farms for 2-3 months and leaves again because there's nothing in wormhole space for him to do PvP wise, which Mick wants to address, right? Mick wants to address the day tripping. I just don't want to add additional incentives to make other areas of space completely void, because wormhole space is the isolated wormhole space is again the most profitable by a
I
large
agree
margin.
with Gideon that if it was introduced, it needs to be balanced to take into account the frequency of raids and the sort of accessibility of a wormhole, the ease of people actually getting in there. Like, sure, you can rage roll, but I don't know the statistics of like the chances of getting into a specific hole. I'm sure Mick does, but making sure that the reward you get from that granary, that's what we're calling it, is balanced with the actual frequency of people raiding it would be very important.
Luckily, that's mostly CCP's problem.
Yes.
Coititus.
Yeah, what's up?
You are running your first campaign.
That's correct, yeah.
If you get your chance to spend a year with CCP, sort of encouraging them to look at anything in particular, is there anything in particular that you know that you want to try and help CCP to address?
Yeah, 100%. I think we were talking about that there is a discrepancy between the risk to reward ratio of a lot of activities in EVE, and I think that is seen pretty heavily in small game content. I think that there is a little obviously there are activities that you can do, and especially stuff that CCP has added nominally here in the past few expansions that small games can do. However, I think that the systems were either doomed to failure from the very beginning, if we're talking about merc dens, or they have been at various degrees of shittiness with skyhooks, or they're ephemeral, like the event content that we saw with the Drifter Crisis. There needs to be, I think, more of this content provided, and content that has already been added needs to be looked at and readjusted so that it can be actually called good content. And so that's primarily what I want to run, like what I would do, what I would advocate for if I was to spend the year with CCP, is providing this perspective of this solo small game content that exists in New Eden or should exist in New Eden, and just looking at that primarily.
Well, we do currently obviously also have current CSM Drakid on with us, who has been almost entirely focused largely on that region. Is that's something that you agree with, that would be good to take a look at?
Was that for me or Coititus?
Drake.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
And he said Drake specifically.
He just sounded like his pose for Coititus. No, I definitely agree with it. Like, just because content comes out and is received well doesn't mean that it will stay either liked or healthy over a long time. So it is definitely probably the CSM is uniquely positioned to gather the data on that from a player perspective and then present it to CCP, because there are so many areas of the game, because this game is so old, that CCP can't go around each one like a checklist system, because it would just simply take too long. So this is where, if anyone, and this is advice for anyone I guess on the CSM, is where myself, Dujek, Mick, and YP have done really well with our respective focus groups, like our councils and our roundtables and our parliaments. This is where you can get really good data that CCP can look at, and because it's coming from a large swath of players and not just yourself dictating what you think the fix should be, it really does help identify problem spaces, which is specifically what CCP is always interested in at the start of anything. They want you to define the problem space, and then later on they will look at considering your advice for fixes later.
Speaking of problem spaces, of new content added, and seeing as we have a couple of CCPs watching, can I just briefly mention the fobs that were added to LowSec are still an issue.
We've had
Young
chats on them.
Puke has been raging about that every single meeting since. So.
Have you just been trading notes with Young Puke? Like, are you just trying to share each other's campaign platform at this point?
I told you our brains are connected.
So
LowSec is very small, Luke. LowSec is very small. We have no choice but to talk to each other because they hear us even if we whisper.
I mean, this is the thing, though. If it is a big issue, it's going to be shared among most CSM candidates because it is an issue and it's agreed upon. Keeping that in their minds.
Yeah, Luke, I don't know if you know this. If you saw Young Puke's interview on CCP Channel today, he was actually wearing an aviator costume. That's not the real Young Puke. He has twins. The other ones are behind us right now, making sure we talk about his campaign points.
Young Puke 2, obviously extremely active.
Young Puke is currently spamming chat with his Reddit
spamming
post
chat
about fobs.
with links. Yeah. I haven't engaged with any of these fobs myself. In fact, Puce, I mean, we share an alliance. I don't think you haven't either, had you?
I've shot at one. They're literally... Okay. So the spawn rate was upped when they moved them into LowSec. They are quite ubiquitous in LowSec now. So yeah, we've seen several of them. I don't think we've interacted with any of the diamond rats on our fleets yet, but they're certainly there.
Has anybody else in this channel actually had a go at this content yet?
Nope.
Specifically in LowSec?
No, yeah, in LowSec, I guess, yeah.
They only exist in LowSec now.
I know now, but like
just imagine that it's content that pays out essentially, is it 40 mil per pilot after 3 days of work, and if you don't clear it, all the NPCs come and ref all your shit.
No, not 3 days. You can kill it straight up.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
But it was great.
Yeah,
I used to use them extensively to get my spies money because there were a lot of high sec pilots going in on this content, with one pilot in particular making a public fleet that people could join, and I just join and get a bunch of money for spies. So I had like something without transferring to me.
I feel like we should get Young Puke in here now because he's just going off in the comments like, no, it's 30 million in all caps.
Yeah.
I mean, given the fact that Drake has been allowed an extra show, I think
I'm very silent. I was agreeing
Puke, if you drop into the lobby, we'll let you in here. But
Puke, this show, and I know
Puke, I need you to turn your mic down before you join the channel.
And this show, Puke,
and put the costume back on.
Yeah.
Oh, you like the costume, did you?
Yeah, he's being summoned. I imagine he'll be with us in.
I'll drag him once he arrives.
Yeah, wonderful. Listen, given that Young Puke, one of the LowSec candidates and a current LowSec focused CSM is about to join, maybe we should go back to talking about nullsec again.
I mean, you just want to start the projection conversation, let's be honest, right?
I would actually like to talk about non-projection based structures. I would like to talk about the role of citadels and
Young Puke is here.
Hello, welcome, Young Puke. Are you a camera person or are you an off-camera person this evening?
He's off mic.
He's a non-microphone.
Hello.
Oh, okay.
Hello. Is this quiet enough?
Welcome back, Puke. How are you doing?
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah. Actually, can you just go back to shouting again? Because this is actually a lot more irritating.
Let's talk about FOPs.
They're not on nullsec, so he can't.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
Oh, okay. I'm normal. Yeah, I can dress up. I'll dress up in costume.
Excellent. Well, can somebody just clip the part of Puke just insisting he's normal? Right. There we go. Right. Structures, namely citadels. These are a very core part of basically every area of space aside from Pochvan. They are vital to the ecosystem of wormholes. They're they're very much important to LowSec. They are obviously basically everything when it comes to nullsec and inhabiting the space. Do any of our candidates today have things that they want to change about citadels?
I think that structure rigs should be able to be taken off in order for a little bit more deploying to be happening. Maybe not have them cost an excessive amount of money, because for a very large group, for like the biggest groups, even they are loath to use structure rigs that are good Tech 2 on Excel structures and stuff.
But do they use them?
I mean, there is drama about it. Like the kind of pings that go out is like Jinx and Asher typing like, okay, we're going to stay here for a while. You can see that we're going to stay here for a while because we put Tech 2 rigs on this thing, and it's never going to pay off. It's a dumb thing to do.
Well,
but like, people still want to rig their structures because they want things to be optimal. But also the smallest groups where XL Tech 2 rig is never going to happen, but they would still like to have like a reasonable.
Is a smaller group going to be able to successfully run a XL structure?
No, not in terms of an XL structure. What I'm saying is that if you could deal with structure rigs better, whether they're cheaper or they can be removed or anything like that, it's not a massive risk to participate in that. And then you can have a smaller group with a large structure saying, our large structure can produce some things as well as a big group structure. Because currently, if you're in a spot, you're a middle age pilot. Like, you've played for a couple of years, you want to expand into being like a serious industrialist, and you want not to do it in LowSec, then like you're going to a big group that have better structures. It also means like moving around and fighting each other and moving space is
the problem here though, Dujek, that the rigs are too expensive or just not good enough commensurate to their cost? Because
it's all of the above. Like,
to my mind is that if you're putting down your mark, the whole point of the rigs is right, like you're putting some skin in the game in those structures and kind of going like, this is where we're planting our flag.
You
right?
are doing
so
you are
what
buying.
I heard immediately there is, we were talking about risk and reward before. To me, this sounds like a reduction of risk for the same reward. And I would also say that if you were able to remove those rigs, what is to stop people from just ripping the rigs out when they think they're going to lose that space and then fucking
like
off?
Yeah, certainly not if they're reinforced. But I'm saying that they have not been in a place of risk versus reward. They've been in a place of, you're an idiot if you use them, and you just shouldn't use them because that's a dumb thing to do.
If
this is
people are
also
idiots
why
and using them, why are so many people using them, and why do people want to use them even if they're in a high risk?
So like there are a lot of
it's obvious because they're worth it. Like
I think that saying like you are probably wrong on the worth it for like the most expensive versions of these rigs, and also it's more of a wanting to have it and feeling emotionally good about it than it being a sound economic decision. And one of the other issues with the rigs is that they're so heavily into the cartel. Like, they're very expensive because basically one person controls rigs, like, as a whole.
Why can't anyone else break into that?
I mean, you'd have to go watch Oz's stream and talking to him about it. But it's
what are the main points that Oz brings up for that? Because I'd be interested to hear what the main issue is.
It's because there's one person who has a lot of supply. He will basically buy up all the materials and keep the prices high, and then if people want to undercut him, he'll wait them out. Like, it's just somebody who's very good at economic PvP who has chosen
especially salvage is like something that gets introduced from the game everywhere through relic runners. It's a very, very, very easy to move commodity, and as somebody who was building rigs for my past alliance, that's actually the only industry I've ever done in this game. Rigs is so easy to get into because the blueprints are cheap. The inventing them is super, super easy, and the materials that you are moving. I was doing all my logistics in a hauling Heckade because you can get 1,500 meters into that, and you can go through high sec without getting killed by Wardeckers for the most part.
There is a simple way to also suppress the price by allowing them to have a drop chance if they're killed, and that like introduces more incentive to actually go and kill them. Not necessarily allowing people to move willy-nilly, but you could just have a drop chance on killing the structures, and then suddenly there's
I
another
think we
pathway of
sidetracked
making money.
as well. Like this is such a small point when it comes to citadels, because I think Phantom might actually wanted to lead into a more negative spin than a positive spin on citadels.
No, I'm
And I
not. I'm
think-
not saying
I think
buff
people want to
citadels.
talk
I'm
about
saying
something
that
different here.
this
And
is definitely an issue where
Yeah.
it's not preventing the big rich groups. I think that it is. I think it's an issue for the smaller groups, especially if you like get driven out of your space and you want to go someplace else.
as somebody who has just been with Boss in Almost and have their deployment, as somebody who built up the Rogue Consortium, invaded Providence with them, or went with the small, medium-sized group Evictus into Legacy and took our own space, the T2 rigs were never an issue for us, claiming our own space and keeping our own space. The reason medium-sized groups don't exist is the P issue, the projection issue. It has nothing to do with rigs.
But you live
it's such a non-issue.
Yeah, you live
I
next
was-
to a very big entity that lets you live there. Let's be honest, like we all who live around you have standing orders to not mess with you because we just kill you if we hit you too hard.
Yeah, you described the issue.
But we
Is
also
that
live
not also
right next to you.
Is that
So,
not
like, there's
also
a lot of
an
projection
issue with the size of empires?
So
though,
before
and the
we
fact
get
that you
on
can
to
hit him.
empire size and projection, because it is the
Let's
logical
stay on
next
Citadel.
point,
Let's stay on Citadel, please.
Puke is now on camera, so probably worth giving him a chance to say hi, and then we'll jump into that elephant that is kind of festering in the corner of the room that probably needs to be discussed now.
I just want to say something real quick, right? I'm so proud of this community for having a civil discussion about hot topic issues. And, you know, I can't wait for next week on the Untethered show where this is not going to happen for 2 hours. So, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, enjoy the next hour. Just putting it out there. Because you're going to see some banana shit throwing. That is next week. And it is the best episode of the year.
For context.
You're welcome for the advertisement. Yeah,
For
go
context,
for it. Go for it.
next
Thank you so much.
next
That's the
Sunday.
best advertisement we've had for this.
Mwah, I love you.
You know earlier in that private channel, Redline, where you're talking about replacing me if I don't do a better job of promo. I think you found your guy.
Cameo me, you know, Venmo me, bro.
Cameo.
Or whatever it is.
So just before we go back to Citadels, next Sunday, immediately following the Alliance tournament, we are going to be having a show that we're hoping to cram even more people into, so that none of it is listenable in any way whatsoever.
We'll get some good emojis out of it.
Excellent
emojis.
Excellent. Right. So an aspect that I wanted to bring up about Citadels is something that we already touched upon with Wormhole Space, which is the basically literally unlimited nature of positioning and number that can be put into a place. And at the same time, what we have basically a full consensus from people outside and inside of NullSec is that one barrier to meaningful war is the unimaginable grind through hit points with any notable systems that would be taken.
The grind is actually not that bad, to be fair, because the shield timer is not really damage locked for the medium structures. The big issue is if you have multiple Asdreoses down there, you actually do have to deploy quite a sizable force if you just do it in subcaps, because the structure itself has so much fighting potential. We used them in Almost against Hold My Probes, right? And I baited them into attacking our structures, and I completely fitted the high slots. You put ECM in the mid slots, then you put the rigs in for cap efficiency, and you have like 10-15 minutes of very, very strong EVO against the enemy fleet. And if you combine all that together and you have a smart pilot sitting in the Citadel, 10 logistic ships from the enemy side, T2 logistic ships, are completely useless. And by downcycling, upcycling the jams, by neutralizing them, by neutralizing the cap chain, by doing some smart moves, 10 logistic ships are disabled. And if you're now talking about a fight in Almost, it was the scale, let's say, the smallest strategic fleets, 30 people, the biggest ones, maybe up to 250 people. If you're in that scale and you lose 10 logistics ships when you're attacking a structure with subcaps right away, before you even start fighting, it's not really a fight that you want to take as the attacking force. And the second thing is, you have to prepare for the defender to defend it every time. So you always have to go into a scale where you can lose 10 logistic ships for the sieging of that citadel. So you always have to go into the scale of 70, 80 people. You're not going to do that with 10, 15, 20
I
people
mean,
because it's so risky.
the problem with the problem with these types of conversations, I feel, this is my opinion, is that we end up going through like scenario mimicking, like this scenario, that scenario, or that scenario. I think it's really helpful to go through like what is more like the systemic issues of citadels, like what are the problems with tether, what are the problems with unlimited clothing and jump clones, what are the problems with related to the cost of citadels, right? Like I think like that's how we sort of go in these super deep rabbit holes versus labeling like what are like these literally translational issues regards to citadels, because you're right, like in the PvP scenarios, yes, there's issues, but like what are like these across boundaries, so to speak, problems that we're having. And I don't know, like I think like that's where we'll get better gain from CCP, and like the discussion's more fluid. Not that I'm dismissing your argument, Gideon. You're right. Like, for example, what your getting point is like the strength of defensive citadels, right? Like, it's able to neutralize big fleets.
It's not just defensive,
like
right? I'm using them aggressively, and because they're so powerful, because you can stack infinite people into them, the enemy has to deal with it. And because they're so cheap, I'm using that as an offensive tool, just dropping them into your space, anchoring them, and you want to deal with it because it is such a it's a powerful projection tool of a different kind.
Yeah,
they have a large amount of power on grid.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting to point out that the precursor to citadels, the outposts, did not have any noticeable defense themselves. It was all done by fleets on grid. And something with citadels is there isn't really a way to mitigate their offensive capability. You can't jam out a citadel, you can't nuke a citadel. They are there, and you have to deal with it. And as a smaller group, that is quite hard because you now have to, as Gideon said, commit more people to a specific role that might get counted by the Citadel.
I would like to limit fitting in some way. I think that one of the things that I was like personally, I was mostly on like plates are kind of dumb, because if you're really doing a proper campaign against somebody, like it's wasting everyone's time that you have to go through plates, especially on undefended ones. But could we think about like what hypothetically a thought experiment if there was like a combat core? So like you have a regular core you put in a citadel, you can have a clone bay, you can have a market, you can't fit basically anything defensive or offensive on it. And then you have like a combat core, which was like 10 billion for an Astra, or like 50 billion for a Ford or something. It doesn't affect the biggest groups, but like
isn't that
you're not
what this
spamming
is
it.
supposed to be the kind of small structure forward operating base model that was thrown around a couple of years ago at Vegas was meant to be the niche structures that would be used to deploy forward into hostile space.
I think that there's a lot to explore in like siege structures, maybe.
And I mean, you also on the flip side of like right now, like attackers don't need to have skin in the game, right? I can just troll ref your structures constantly, pick the best timer, burn out all your phones, and just not engage at all, right? So like even if you talk even before you even defend, right? There's this sort of incentive to actually not fight, right? Like it's not like I put my hat in, you put your hat in. The attacker always has that advantage of I don't have to engage, right? And so like if it's boring, I'm not going to get a fight, or the fight is too blobby, I can always say no. But like there should be some way to make it that both sides want to engage more. I mean we're not even talked about even tether yet, right? Like how strong tether is compared to like like the differences between posh shields and like tether as a mechanic.
I was going to mention on the fact that outposts didn't have defenses. They also had a specific point where you undocked, you weren't able to sit on grid and gather intel and maneuver on that grid. I mean, I know Gideon slightly disagrees with me on this, but I mentioned before, for example, that a Keepstar has a tether that is so large that you can warp across it, and you can just pick where your fleet starts the engagement after you've already gathered intel safely on the enemy fleet that's on grid. It gives the defenders a very big advantage, even though it doesn't seem that way at first glance.
We got a lot of good fights from disabling aspects of the outposts as well, which like more
Yeah.
reasons to fight and harass people.
Yep.
I think
That's
outposts
that's
themselves.
just straight gone.
There's another point that is currently missed. If you're an attacker and you take over an outpost in the past and you stack your tools into it, you were risking your tools. Because if you lose that outpost, the enemy now has control of that outpost and can lock you out. So as an attacker, right now in a citadel, I can stack everything into an Astreus, get all my tools in there, and the worst case that happens is they go into asset safety. Or because it's such a long timer, and you have tether, you can also extract 100% safely. So you undock from them, you jump freighter your stuff out. Even if you deploy aggressively into that structure, there's no risk to it if you have some kind of organization. An old outpost, if I take it over, and there's a chance the defender takes it over, if I stack my stuff into there, I could be locked out of all my ships, and I don't have access to that for a while. And that also led to defenders fighting over outposts more for two reasons. First of all, they had their own stuff still in that outpost, and they wanted their stuff back, and they didn't want to pay asset safety. And the second part is I can lock my enemy out. And the third part is the aggressor actually wanted to take over the outpost to get the fire sales. When I started the game, Providence was still running outposts, even if citadels were introduced. FTech-Y was the staging station in Nalsec. And when that was taken over, the attackers made a massive amount of ISK by just buying fire sales below market value because people wanted to move away from Proviblock because they were frustrated with losing that fight. And so people had skin in the game, and it was not oppressive. And attackers had skin in the game if they want to take it over, because if they don't defend it, the enemy takes it back later on.
Correct. And
I
like
know
that's
that we're just piling problems one at a time here, and I've got another one to add to the top here. Right, is that except in very rare edge cases, the single outpost that systems could have was not usually anywhere close to a gate, or to what was at the time a jump bridge on a POS. It was nowhere close to it. It wasn't remotely on the same grid. It was rarely even pointed in a direction that you want for insta undocking, and the being able to so precisely choose exactly where you place your citadel, your fortizar, your keepstar, is something that a lot of people don't think about, which is a massively unimaginably powerful tool that they've given us.
And I just to circle back to our earlier discussion as well, like these are all other issues in a whole other entire area of gameplay space that like we're really not talking about because the projection topic is still here. We're unable to move forward with our dialogue and discussion because we're still talking about subcapital projection in space. Once it's fucking, can I swear in here? Am I allowed to?
It's past the watershed.
Okay, cool. So once it's fucking solved and we can move on, we can talk about the next big can of worms, which is citadels. But as long as we keep talking about the other problem that's been talking about for 5 years, the game stagnates, and it's really unfortunate, right? And so like this is the next can of worms. Like this is where the next big debate happens, but we can't move forward until the first question is solved, and then we can start developing and iterating more on citadels. Maybe we could do both.
Listen,
I doubt it, but
we have
about
four. We have
Yeah.
four current. We have a third of the entire CSM currently in this chat here. Why has it not been solved after 5 years?
Hey Drake, that's you. I gotta go. See you guys. It's a great question. Bye guys.
Well,
Drake,
actually,
Nick, we gotta go to dinner tonight, okay?
Okay.
I'll see you at the
It's
bar.
funny that Fan is kicking the can when he was also a member of the CSM at one point.
Yeah,
and he didn't kick it then.
We knew that this was going to be a big issue this year. And at the summit, we all got together and we laid a very clear plan where we talked about it until we could find a number of items that we agreed upon. And then we would not have this kind of chaotic discussion in front of CCP. We wanted to get all our ducks in a row so that we could talk to them unified. And we asked for a list of things, and we got how far you spawn from them. You can't go back through when you are scrammed. They ref in a different way. And all of these things are what we got. we did ask
Sorry,
for
I'm sorry
more.
to interrupt here, but I'm going to be real. But if that is the extent of what everybody agreed on,
No,
then
it is
some people
not.
there were
Like that's why.
refusing the issue.
No, that's why I need to finish my
Wait,
entire sentence.
Wait.
Let me
Okay,
just
all right.
riff for a second on this, right? Like, there is a list of development cycles that CCP go through, right? There are things that are easy to change. There are things that are long arc expansions, and you can't just change them.
Yeah.
There is a list of things that was done. That's not saying that was the list of the full things that we all agreed should be done.
We asked for a whole bunch of things, and like that's kind of like still it exists somewhere, right? That list.
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten the minutes from the summit yet, by the way. So like we also can't like it would maybe or maybe not be cleared by NDA. We asked for many things. We asked for things that I think even you would be happy if were implemented, but for whatever reason, and we don't know why this reason is, we didn't get it yet. And basically, we've lived a year when the next summit comes around with the small things that we asked for that were not enough. And that gives us a great new starting point to say, this isn't fixing the issue. We want more. Give us the rest of the list. Give us other things, like cooperate with us and talk to us like, why can't you live with that list, or what would you propose instead, etc.
So just to kind of butt in real fast, is your biggest issue with like Ansiblex's protection that people can get to fights? Like, is that the
Is
issue?
that they can live in very safe, deep parts of nullsec and then commute to the front line without having to
What's wrong with
sacrifice
that?
having.
He's not being a devil's advocate. He's trying to get the people to understand. FYI.
Yeah, so previously the way that it worked, and this has worked in some conflicts in the past as well with like World War B2, for example, is you need to, as a group, decide that you want to go conduct war against another group, and that includes sacrificing member income and deploying to the front line as an alliance, as a coalition, and not making as much money, but you are able to push like offensively into the space of the other group that you're fighting, right? What happens right now is that, and the reason, in my opinion, why there's so many stalemates in nullsec is because everybody's able to crab basically the same amount and be far like physically away from the front line, and also conduct war on virtually the same time scale as they could, like if they were deployed, because it's.
And you said that this is happening right now? Because to my knowledge,
Yes.
there are two kind of active nullsec wars, and all four groups
shows up to every
involved in
fight,
those
and
nullsec wars
they live.
are deployed to a different place than
They are
they
not.
normally. So like that's
Goons
not what's
are
happening.
not
They're-
deployed.
Oh right,
They
they move their entire
move.
alliance right next door to their number one enemies. I forgot.
Redline.
That's
Question,
what they
all the
do.
auxiliary.
What is right
Redline,
next
all the
door?
auxiliary
So
alliances
let's-
of the Imperium live behind goons in relative safety. Like for example, let's just put it this way: the anti-network from and this isn't like a slight against goons. It's the most optimal way of doing it, right? And that's the whole issue. But like for example, you can get from period basis, which is the southernmost region of the game, to G-Q, which is one of the primary drone lands to Innsmother regional gates in, I want to say, 13 jumps, which is 3 jumps less than it takes from our current staging within drone lands to G-Q with no ANSIs.
And do you
I
know,
know, I
what
find
would completely ruin that for anybody using that 13 jump network? One fucking dictor, Sven. One fucking dictor.
Except that you can quite easily
just
clear the dictator when your gang comes through. The dictator change only really impacted the small people who are using
Not
the
necessarily.
jump
So
gates.
it does have an effect, and the ability to
It does
disrupt
have an
along with
effect.
So
exchange
if
is
you're
really
not,
good.
But it is not.
It's not.
If you're
doesn't
not,
tackle
It is not
the
heavy
fundamental
enough.
Hold
part
on.
of
If you're
the
not
issue.
using the
Gentlemen,
fact,
gentlemen.
if you're not
One
using
second.
the fact that Ansiblex gates have been turned into like worse than Stargates in terms of safety, like if you're not using that to your advantage,
do,
that's
but
a
it
skill
doesn't-
issue, man. That's just a
We do
skill
use
issue.
them. That doesn't fundamentally change that they can get from using Ansiblexes from period basis to the front lines in fewer jumps than we can get from the edge of our region to our staging.
The fundamental issue with Ansiblexes as they are right now is the outward speed that you can project force. So that enables Empire sprawl, and that enables you hearing about a conflict which is happening on the other side of the galaxy, forming your fleet and sending your fleet over there at max power. So like full on.
Yeah,
full on
and
battleship
also,
things.
Question for you.
Go on to the real quick.
Time out.
Stop.
Puke, we
One
don't.
at a time.
I don't need to check timeouts, my friend. Just so that I can be clear, Puce, how many 256-man fleets have you ever formed in your whole entire?
Have I formed?
Mm-hmm.
I've never formed one because I'm not the head of the null block. I've
so you have
participated
no-
in several.
You have no earthly idea what goes into forming these
Not.
giant nullsec fleets. So you
An
cannot say
athlete
like you
advert.
can
You can have
hear
opinions on
about a
advert.
conflict
It's not
sorry.
that hard.
across the
It's-
galaxy
Yeah,
and
Puce,
get
Puce, do you
250
not
people
realize
there.
how long it takes to use a calligraphy pen to write the ping?
It's not about writing the ping, dude. Have you ever tried to move?
We
more
all
than
know that
10
everybody
people
needs to
across
get
the
their what is it that you need to get in your
really
honks
hard.
or your participation trophies or whatever they call them.
They're
So
honks,
you're going to join the
paps.
fleet.
Fuck.
Your paps, your honks. So join the fleet and we'll Ansiblex over to the other side of the galaxy and cause tie-dye, which exacerbates a bunch of other issues like structure grind and
first
soft
and-
grind and all this
First
stuff.
and foremost,
I
if
have
you
a-
want
I-
to solve an
can I just
issue,
ask-
if you want to solve an issue there, tie-dye right there, because tie-dye in the space where the fight is already happening, it's not affecting people traveling there, so that makes it even worse. So I think if you fix tie-dye, you don't even need to worry about Ansiblexes.
Tie-dye is not
that?
fixable. Technologically, tie-dye is not fixable because as soon
I
as
don't
CCP
believe it. It's
updates the
2025.
servers, we stack more
Just
people into the
bear in
system.
mind that tie-dye is a feature, not a bug.
It is a
Yeah.
feature.
Tie-dye is a
Tie-dye, the
technical
system would just
mechanism.
crash. It would just crash the second that it slowed down at all.
Yeah,
That-
so-
that's
so-
what tie-dye prevents.
So tie-dye is a technical mechanism to allow the game to cope with that many people trying to put inputs into the server. In terms of can it be resolved? Yeah, maybe. If you rebuild Eve from the scratch with
I'll be
modern
honest,
technology.
King, it was a
It's not
joke.
going to happen.
I don't think so.
It was a joke.
I think even
I
with
guess it wasn't a good one.
It was not
it's a joke, but it does legitimately come up. But I think with
we're, like,
modern
super
technology,
off topic. We're like super off topic. Can we like get back to like the meat of the matter? Thank you.
I was going to say something about, because Red Line said a single dictator can stop it. It can stop it for about 5 seconds if you have a Busha. And you would have to have one dictator on every single Ansiblex because the dictators can't then catch up to slow
Drake,
them
I
down
believe
to
a
something.
You could already waterboard
And
people.
I mean, guys, we only
But
roughly
so-
ask
so-
only one.
so just
Puke,
to-
do you have a
just to
sticker
condense
still
it.
on your sunglasses?
I do.
But just
I have to
condense it down.
return them. I have to return them
let
after
Drake
Halloween, dude.
finish his thought.
Yeah,
I don't
just-
want to lose.
Oh my god, Puke, shut the fuck up.
Sorry. Phantom, I distracted me.
He is a distracting person, I do agree.
Oh, God.
But to
Orange shirt
to
and
say that
everything, ugh.
because people can fuck with them actively doesn't magically mean that the systemic issue of widespread projection is far too easy from people very far away who crab in very easy safety and don't need to strategically move assets around because they have this network.
So I personally
I think it's even worse
believe
because
that
it
the
destroys
bubble
others.
change
Yes.
is a good change in isolation. But when Ansiblex is still the problem that it is right now, I don't. It's a drop in a bucket, right?
Here's
It's
the
also
thing. You
also
think
different issues
crabbing
that's
and
come up
ultimate
with.
safety, but nullsec is the most dangerous space in the whole game. Like, there's wormholes that just drop into my space anytime. Are you kidding me? How is that
I
safe?
believe
to say
wormholes
the
connect to any
wormhole-
space.
The absolute humanity.
To say the wormhole's the most dangerous space in the game ignores the fact that Podgrin is double any other destruction despite being a tenth of the size. And wormholes themselves is over double Podgrin.
Right, listen, everybody, my space is the best
Preach it,
space.
Drake.
So just
Sorry, no, I mentioned wormholes. It's our space. Mine.
I want to propose. I want to propose something. I think that one of the issues with projection is the ubiquity of Ansiplexes, where you can get anywhere you want at any time. I think honestly, when Equinox initially dropped, one of the things that we saw was that we would have way fewer Ansiplexes, and then people got that taken back, and like I can't count, I can't like give a good estimate of how many Ansiplexes we have by looking at the map, but like to me it seems like somewhere in the order between like 50 and 70 green Ansiplexes available to me. I really do think that if I could wish for a thing without proposing a way to make that happen. I would like to have the antiplexes have to be routed towards my enemy on a short-term basis with like a spool up to get there. So it's not like I can go east or west at any given time. I'm fighting the people who live to my west. I'll route all my antiplexes in that direction. It'll be easy to get to the war because I want to fight a war, but not like, oh, there's a fight happening on the exact opposite side of the map. I will
That
be
still
there
wouldn't fix
equally
the core
fast.
issue though,
That-
because
that
the core
does
issue.
the speed of projection, but just requires a bit of planning.
It doesn't kill the speed of projection because you just said you route it in the direction you want. So
yeah, it keeps the speed of projection, but you just have a bit of planning beforehand. That's not even that hard to do because a war should last for more than like 1 day. You just say direct everything that way, and we keep the speed of projection.
But
and
also,
you
like,
still have
people
the issue
see
of
that
antiplexes.
it's happening and so on.
It's
Like,
even
I don't
worse,
know.
right? Because I can direct one lane in the one way and one lane in the other way, and you have both ways covered.
Yeah, but I
anyway.
also
So
preface
one
this
direction
by
doesn't
saying
work.
that you have fewer antiplexes. Like, this doesn't work if you can
So-
have an infinite amount of antiplexes.
Yes, but
fewer
something that
doesn't
we
fix it either.
considered,
Because-
something we
because
considered
if
with
it's
Equinox is just
Okay, let's boost
fewer
first,
fewer
then
ones.
Gideon.
Just trim the branches off, right? And you still have the superhighway that goes along, and you can still project pretty damn fast across space. You might lose some like local and some options coming off that superhighway, but you still have that fast projection. It's just on a line rather than spread out. It does affect it, but it doesn't fix it.
We have a prime example why fewer doesn't help, because we had one system that was super projecting over all of EVE, and we saw the impact of it, and that was Zazak. With Zazak, Fraternity led a war from Whale of Silence through the Venal Gate, through Zazak, into Curse, and evicted their only other time zone member, Dracarys.
I'm gonna go down a very quick like conspiracy thing.
Right? Like to make a point that this mechanic is dumb, right?
Yeah,
It's really clear.
So it's very crystallized. We have this one example that has been shown and has been removed from the game again, where projection almost killed like the second biggest alliance in that time zone, because they were sitting there, and I can imagine that their leaders were sitting there, and they were looking like, where can we even go at this point to avoid fraternity? Because they were already on the other side of the universe. They were in Imperium space. They had the biggest ally they could wish for, and they got still turbo stomped because in the time zone, fraternity could project from Whale of Silence.
It's not
There
my
is
fault.
no
We were
further they could
gifted.
go.
It is not my fault. We were gifted a 50 light year jump bridge.
To be fair, Luke, I think that Gideon's point is that it existed rather than that you.
I agree with his point. I agree with his point.
My point is not that even that existed, right? Like that is past tense. What I'm saying is it crystallizes the problems that projection provides, because
and I think
it turbo stumped out another group that existed, and it could have smashed them into a position where they would stop existing. And this has happened to smaller groups already. Look at the coalition influence map at the moment. We are looking at 4 big parties in Nalsec, and there's 1.5 regions left that are not part of blocks, and that is half of Delph and Quarius. That's it. Even NPC Nalsec at this point is consolidated into blocks. Curse is controlled by Goonswarm for the most part, Imperium. The outer ring is initiative. If you go to the western part of Losec, is Solitude, Iridia, and those regions are controlled by initiative to a certain extent.
Gideon, do you know that it is possible to do something about that in the video game?
Yes, but if their stage
wait, hold on. If there's why is it not happening then?
Well, I don't know.
Why is it not happening? I don't know. You tell me.
Personally,
You're the
I
one that
think
says it's fine. Why is it not happening?
Personally, I think it's because nobody wants. That's me.
No, I don't.
I can
no,
tell.
no, I
Wait,
don't.
Luke, may I? I can tell you firsthand, after 30 plus alliances I've talked to, they want to, they can, they get curb stomped. There's nothing for them to do, so they join a block. There is no way. Motherfuckers have tried across the board to try to do in the current system. They have tried and tried again. These groups are dying, and it's not that they're shit. You had Gorn Clay try to do it in Pravi. You had Volta try to do it again. You had B2, B3 trying it in Cloud Ring, Fade, and Pureblind. You had countless of examples. The idea that groups have not tried is bullshit. They have tried endlessly. They have granted to previous CSMs. They have spoken to previous leadership. They've spoken to CCP, and they have not been heard. That is a lie.
So what have they done to try?
Go
They
off,
tried to
Slay.
go in and
Sorry,
and
they tried.
dose his space. Like what
They
did they do?
They did.
Volta
tried to
on
hold
space.
space,
Volta
what
on
happened?
space. They moved into Terra with me, and I spoke to Starfleet. You can hear his interview on Imperium News Network. And basically, he looked at the map after getting evicted by Fraternity, after losing one war. He looked at the
Where
map
do
and
you
was like,
go?
where do you fucking go? Because there's not even one place where you could not stop the projection from immediately evicting you again. And that was not a small coalition, right? That we're talking about Brave, we're talking about Volta, we're broken. We formed Blob that doesn't exist anymore. Oh, another
Yeah, but they
alliance
were
that
a
is dead.
bad coalition.
But it doesn't matter though, right? Like that's what they tried to form a coalition to exist, and they couldn't. I just had a beautiful conversation with the leader of WAMP. WAMP is
Beautiful,
part of
really beautiful.
Okay,
One of the
very
most
beautiful
beautiful
conversations.
conversations.
The best
Yeah,
conversation.
No,
I
before
love.
you
No,
go
sorry.
into
Best conversation.
before
But I talked
before you go into whatever conversation you had with whatever person you're going to talk about, I just want to ask you. So like these people, they tried to take space off of null blocks, and then they got smashed by the null blocks, right? Like that's what happened.
Yeah,
So
like, I'll speak. I'll speak
what's
from.
gonna stop that from happening? Like, do you think if Ansiblexes were gone,
yes,
it
if
would
they
be
were gone
removed
entirely? Yeah,
Here's a
that you couldn't just Titan
theoretical
jump
situation.
from your staging to where the
can't,
people are trying to
because
take in.
Titan jumps have fatigue on them.
They have fatigue. And so you know what happened? I would stage in Pure Blind NPC. I would start hazing, fade, Pure Blind, all that space constantly. Every time they form, they spend, what is it? It's going to be, I don't even know, they can't even get there
5 minutes.
without.
5 minutes is
It's
how
not
long
5
it takes,
minutes.
apparently.
It will
at the
currently,
moment.
but then it takes them 2.5 hours in total for a fleet where nothing happens. I can use either fatigue, I can use timers, I can do hazing, and they're not going to continuously able to maintain their SOV.
So
these,
here's the. I want to
I
speak
don't
to this instead.
understand.
What would
Hold
happen?
on, before you jump in, because I want to ask. So because I played, when there was before Ansiblexes, I played after, et cetera, but the thing is that if there's that much time that's required to get there, then you just form up earlier and you go there earlier.
People are not going, but
yes,
we saw though during that.
But
Yeah,
can I jump in with some rationale regarding the B2 example that we're using? Because actually there is some truth in what both sides of you are saying, and some bits where you're both wrong. So for the war in B2, we actually did forward stage to Yumi KK, so next to Pure Blind, because, and actually it validates the projection point, the Ansiplex network was getting shot so much it was unreliable and therefore not usable. But that's kind of the projection argument in a nutshell, right? Like if you reduce the ability to project, whether fatigue, timers, whatever, it forces groups to forward project and to forward deploy, like we had to do. So actually, you're both kind of right and both wrong simultaneously. But for context,
as somebody who was employed by Volta, right? As somebody who was employed by Volta to camp the UMI jump bridge and kill the dreadnoughts that are straggling, your guys not deploying forward actually had a cost for you. Because I camped that system and I looked for transits and I looked for people out of position. Like we killed Titans, we killed Supers, we killed Dreadnoughts on the way to the fights with a smaller group. But if you reduce the time that somebody needs to go from the back line to the front line, it also decreases the amount of ability that I can intercept somebody who's traveling. And even if I spot somebody now, let's say I'm sitting in your staging and I'm seeing you warping to an Ansiplex, the amount of time that I need to get to the other side of the Ansiplex, you already took the next one. I have no idea where the fuck you even went with that ship. So even hunting and shadowing somebody doesn't exist anymore. I can give an example. Like 3 months ago, I did something as an FC that I haven't done in ages. And Spectre fleet was taking a fleet through Farah with cruisers, so a slower fleet. I know they can attack Ansiplexes because they're an NPSI group. And we shadowed that fleet for a solid 30, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, trying to find stragglers, trying to find weaknesses, and trying to pinpoint a single person that we can, whose mistake we can exploit to get rid of them.
Stupidest way to this video game.
One of the other things that hasn't been touched upon here is that
no, move it. There's a threat to moving, and there's a threat to not protect your backline. There, in the past, you align like if you move a battleship fleet at the moment, it is super safe to move a battleship through Ansiplexes. If you took 20 jumps in the past into the war zone with your battleship fleet, there were several moments where your battleship fleet is under threat, and because of that threat, you didn't take a battleship fleet for every fight. It doesn't surprise me that the Rock got nerfed, and the next ship is again the Maelstrom is currently crystallizing itself in the meta. That it's again a battleship that is the main fighting ship, because you always take. It doesn't matter how fast your ship is. It doesn't matter how fast you're moving across the galaxy, because that is solved by NC-plexes. You take the cheapest best ISK per power ship that you can get, and you just jump there through the NC-plexes. There is no threat in jumping 10 jumps. There's a lot of threat if you would have to jump a battleship through 30 jumps. Because if I see a Goonswarm fleet jumping 30 jumps, small gangers will start trying to hit the back line.
Gideon, I hate to
Medium-sized group
interrupt
or
you,
stuffed
but I
out
really
will.
love to do it because it's necessary at this point. Because you can see any Ansiblex in the entire video game, right? And if you want to intercept a battleship fleet and you can't figure out how to do it, and you know when it's going to be taking the Ansiblex gates, like you can see the ping when it forms up. You can watch it travel, you can see the destinations.
I mean, when
you
it
can
forms up,
plan out
allegedly, it's
that
going to be 2
route.
hours until it starts moving.
Right, exactly. Like, there's already so many ways for you to intercept these fleets if you just wanted to do it. Like, at this point, I think the
It's not
reason
about
that you guys
intercepting a fleet,
aren't
it's about
getting your changes through for projection is because you're suggesting things that just make it easier for you and harder for us. And, like, that's
I don't
bullshit
think that's
because
true. I
we're
don't
the
think
ones
that's
that
true.
own the space. Like, it's our
This is just not
space.
true.
We're the ones that
That's
fight
not
for it.
true.
And
What we're
if you
going to
want
do,
it,
guys,
come and take
is
it.
we're going to carry on
But the
with
thing is,
this.
people have
But we're-
tried
we're-
to take
puke,
it.
puke.
Okay,
Alright,
well
we're
then
going-
they
but
didn't
we're
try
all-
good
Dad,
enough.
We're all going to. We're all
Like, what do
red
you
line.
mean?
Circular,
Red
it
line.
goes around.
What, Dad?
We're
What do
going
you
to
want from
all-
me? I'm trying to
all
talk
going
to my
to-
friends.
We're going to carry on, but we're all going to lower our voices by a few decibels.
What do you mean? I turned the sound volume down on the stream. It's okay. Everyone loves it.
Yeah. I have a new point that we haven't talked about regarding
Go
this.
for it.
Is it good?
Go for it. Yeah, I want to hear it. I need to hear it.
We got attacked as a coalition in the north by Frat originally. And what happened is Frat 4 were deployed and Frat were living next to us and they were fighting us. Like, that's what we want from a projection change. But Horde were coming from way further away. Goons and Init were coming from 45 jumps away, which is 10 jumps in this case, right? And so it's not a Frat versus B2, which was honestly a way more enjoyable contest of fleet strength, rather than every fight is now all of Horde living in Frat systems, in Frat structures that we can't attack, and all of Goons having to show up and form up 2 hours early and burn up north. And then we have a situation where we will lose the fight if it's Horde plus Frat against us, and Goons can't or won't or are sick of showing up every day. And then, like, the entire contest has spilled over to involve way more people than it originally did.
And to the argument that I was saying earlier about battleships being like the mainline doctrines for fighting right now, right? In the past, if you had the 45 jumps, you could still get to that fight if you really wanted as Imperium or as Horde, but you would not come in battleships. You would have to downsize to Harpies, Jackdaws, all the other smaller doctrines that are rarely used these days because there's just no reason to use them because the travel problem is already solved for you and traveling is not dangerous. So by solving the travel issue, you also limit the amount of different doctrines that are getting utilized and the different amount of counterplays that are getting utilized. So you're also solidifying a meta that is very, very, very locked into single ships. And this is why the Rock nerf has such an impact on the meta, because the Rock was the only usable ship on the really, really large scale. And because everything is large scale and you can get anywhere in a second, it's going to be the only ship that is getting utilized. And we now see the same switch. Something will crystallize as the mainline battleship, and it's going to be used. We see Init trying with Napog navies. If they don't succeed, it's going to be the Maelstorms or something like that. But everybody's going to use that because there's no consideration for travel time.
And I will say, when we talk about this this potential future where you have to travel in real time rather than Ansiblex time, let's say instead of 15 minutes, it does take you 1.5 hours to move the same distance as just like a metric to just go with. That's 1.5 hours there and back. That's 3 hours where you are not able to also respond to things on the other side of your large amount of space. At the same time, it's taking you away from other PvP that you may be doing
on that
elsewhere.
character. It is worth noting on that character, right? Because there are strategies to modify them.
I mean, if people want to multi-box to fight 2 fleet fights on opposite sides of the galaxy at the same time, then I think
simultaneous is a different
applauding
story.
them.
Simultaneous is different, right? Like if you end a fleet, you can park up there.
So, well, that's good.
But at the same
I
time,
agree with you. Hold on, Luke. I agree with you on that. But of course, now this is asking you to double your expenditure in terms of characters you're running with that kind of thing as well.
And the second part as well is
because I'm
using it as
asking
a straw man.
you, like, it's asking you to also set up a two-pronged attack. And, like, let's be real, you're not going to. You're going to form for the timer that you're intending to fight for. We're going to form up an hour and a half earlier than we normally get there. And it's the
but
same
somebody else will
result
attack your backline.
That's fine.
where
No,
you're not
let's go
able
with it.
to fight us either way.
Actually, no, I would. I'm going to disagree with this one. Actually,
We're not
I think.
Go?
No, that's Mick Fightmaster raiding you from a
Let me
wormhole
finish.
you're
Let me
talking about.
finish. You're not going to pincer move space under the current mechanics. However, and I would agree that if let's just say fatigue for a second, right, on jump bridges, it's something that wildly reduces the time that you can respond to the other side, and you're in a major conflict, I would totally split my forces to attack both sides of space. Cool. You know, that's coming from a
that's
a
really
position
cool.
that makes those
That's
decisions.
great.
That's what I would do because
yeah, and that's really great for the game. That's halving the power. I mean, I know that in this scenario you're saying I could still have a good chance of winning with each of these halves of the power, but nonetheless, it has halved the power.
And that is
at
something
each
I was going to
location. That's
mention
good.
earlier, is a scenario where, for example, like Horde is fighting goons on one side of their space and they can't zoom over to the other one, gives smaller groups an opportunity to go and attack that now less populated or less respondable to space, because Horde would have to split. And if they split, they're fightable. So, yeah, I think that would be a good thing.
The other thing too, honestly, like this game is 22 years old, right? And why doesn't let CCP try a year, 18 months, one development cycle, put fatigue back on? If it doesn't work, I will eat my own shoe.
Well, because they could
This
not
is
have a video game
actually-
after that year. Thing.
But I mean, but
if
I
they
don't know
put a
because
change
I
in
know
that causes everyone to unsubscribe in droves, like literally everyone, then the
I
game's
definitely
done.
disagree. Because
the
I
idea
think
that they'll unsub because of a change like Antiplex is like the
Are you
most
kidding me?
poisoning of poisoning of the well
yeah.
comment. It is horseshit, and you know it.
It is not horseshit, and you know
I mean,
it.
It is
People
not.
have
It is
unsubscribed
horseshit.
in waves for less. This is something that
No,
people actually
people
give a shit about.
people are protesters
Protested.
for less, and that involved real life money. Whereas this doesn't. This is them changing the ecosystem of the game that
time
may.
is money. That's the thing that you.
Right. Okay. We're all nerds in basements. Our time is fucking worthless. Come on.
Absolutely not.
I mean, plus, like, like, I think there's a populace of the Eve population that's like just not being heard, right? Which is the people that left because they can't do anything. Those people would come back, and there's a lot. I bet you would see people like Starfleet and Flight Leader come back and do more shit in the game again. I think you have people like Darius who would reform United Federation of Conifers. Guess what? They tried doing that this past summer. They tried to use all the mechanics that they could have in the past that we allowed. It didn't work. And
Why didn't it
Darius is
work?
not a fucking idiot because it's the issues that we're talking about right now. The current mid-size alliances have used every tool at their disposal to try to breach and to solve. However, the longer this problem permeates, the taller and taller you must be this tall to enter solve sign grows. And so it's by kicking the can in the road, it metastasizes the problem more and more as we see less and less, opportunities for small to mid-scale groups to enter various ecosystems.
I think
so
one of the
CCP, in
biggest
my
problems-
opinion, really has to make a decision because we're not going to agree. They have to decide what type of game that they want to have. Because we can agree, maybe generally it feels like in the room, that we agree long-range projection is the problem. But we're never going to agree on the mechanics because we're not a game designer for CCP. They need to take leadership, they need to take ownership, and lead us to where they want to go. And if they don't want to, let us know and let people vote with their wallets.
I think it's just a way more complex problem. I think that people see their favorite time of the game and they'll point to the lack of antiplexes then and look at like, oh, but we didn't have jump fatigue and what people consider like their golden age of Eve. Like, yes, projection is a problem now, but projection has been a problem in different ways because it took a different form before.
And it was, it was in a different economy back then. Like the player base is much, much wealthier now.
But it's a complete and multifaceted problem where, like, yes, I completely agree. Let's look at projection. Like, I do agree with that. But I do not agree with the people who say, oh, the second we fix ansiplexes, everything will be perfect. All the small groups will pop up. All the people who quit because they have families and 3 kids now will come back to the game. They will disown their kids because there are no ansies. Like, I don't believe that. We just need to make the game continuously more fun, more to do, more reason to maybe allow smaller groups as well as
But we
look
can't
at
move the
projection.
discussion forward. That's my previous comment. We cannot move the discussion forward if we're still talking about the damn same problem. That's the issue. We can't talk about how to make.
We don't talk about citadels as much because NCPlex is overshadowed. Though
Exactly.
we don't talk about low sec balance, that there might be some projection issues inside low sec with the blobs roll bonus. Like that is not even mentioned here yet. That some people might disagree with the roll bonus, or you can open a sino and not get booshed anymore on effects. So you are not even risking anything. Or Snuffed Out would say that boosters themselves are mass boosters from Fraternity warping on top of the effects and pushing their battleships off would be another issue. We are not talking about game mechanic issues that can be frustrating or can hinder gameplay because it's just not the main issue. It's like everything below is like 5% of the issue, but you have the 95% above, and as long as the 95% above are not getting fixed, nobody's talking about the 5%.
The Basilisk said it beautifully. Every other update or change that is not fixing long-range projection is just a band-aid. He's completely right. This is the biggest problem, and then we can start moving the discussion forward more. Because Dujek, you're right. People are not going to come back. Right?
I think we assume it is the biggest problem.
Can I jump in? We're not quick. We can then focus on other topics and the other facets of problems once we can move the hurdle. Until then, we're going to have the same Untethered episode for the next 10 years.
So I want to kind of shift directions. People are tired. They want to go to sleep. I'm going to take I'm kind of going to take the reins and direct the convo, because you're saying that we can't go and try to fix these things without fixing projection and ansiplexes. But do you not think that there is a way to fix these that kind of demotes the of ansiplexes and projecting like that? Because it's putting a bunch of people in one place. That's the problem. We get 500 people, right? That's your issue. But what if there was something that made it so that 500 people were required?
It doesn't matter because if I drop a single, like let's say I take a medium-sized group, Snuffed Out, let's say they drop 30, 40 dreads into nullsec right now. The problem right now is they will get bubbled. Let's say they can be kept in place for 5 to 10 minutes. If Fraternity is forming fast enough, these dreads are just dead because they're getting swarmed by any of the big blocks. Let's use Fraternity by a huge subcapital fleet that keeps trickling in and that is never gonna get disrupted because of the huge numbers. So a medium-sized conflict or a medium-sized alliance can never even dare to drop their dreadnoughts when they're not in 100% safety and they have a safety net to extract them right away, because the risk of being stuck on a grid and then getting swarmed because the projection is so fast is so high that people just avoid taking the risk in the first place. So it just deteriorates medium conflicts. When is the last medium conflict that
right there, what you
went on over a longer period of time?
It's to the point where people don't even want to try. Like that is the problem. So I know I hear you saying that groups have tried to break into nullsec and things like that. But how big were these groups? Like you're trying to compete with.
I just led a soft campaign last year with
we have like 4 people that have ran mid-scale alliances. You have Big AB and low sec. It doesn't matter, right? Like that's the point. Like, you're asking me, you're asking us, like, what are the groups that are doing it? These groups, these groups have hundreds and hundreds. Like these groups can drop a bountiful amount of capitals. They can form decent sized fleets. They have high SP, but the issue is that the ceiling, the you must be this tall to enter this space, keeps getting higher and higher and higher as stagnation fuels and fuels and fuels. And so there's not enough players. Eventually what's going to happen to even siege nullsec Sov whatsoever, which is going to then stagnate it even further.
I would also
that
is exactly what happened in Eve Serenity as well. It got to the same point, and then there were 2 blocks, and those 2 blocks became the donut, and everyone else immediately fucked off to TQ.
Eve has the inherent n+1 wins aspect to it, right? Which you say, well, what if we have things that don't need 500 people to do? Well, if you want to win that, you're going to put as many people on grid as you possibly can, and the enemy is going to do the same thing. So to have meaningful objectives, you kind of also lean into the thing where you need as many people to be there as possible.
The only
As somebody who
groups-
was just as somebody who was FC'd for soft campaign almost last year, Init mostly kept out when we were fighting Hold My Probes on some 40 timers. Imperium, sorry, not Init. Imperium showed up with Brave. But for the most part, for the daily skirmishes, for the Citadel fights, for the taking soft over, they mostly kept out for like multiple months at a time. And we're talking about an alliance. Hold My Probes at a point, I think, had like 8,000 characters plus their adjacent smaller alliances. Let's say 10,000 characters. Boss, Slow Children at play, us plus the other small groups like UA fleets. Let's say we had like a 4,000 to 500 character a group fighting against each other for 6 months, for a long period of time. And the reason why these fights could happen is because we had agreements with other parties that please don't involve yourself. And because Imperium was taking the north part, and like Horde and these groups couldn't interfere right away because Imperium was still in the process of taking over other space. And while that fight was going on, players from both sides now approach me and say that was among the best time they had EVE, and it was amongst the times they were the most invested into EVE. Because there was something on the line, there was an enemy to fight, and the enemy wasn't just some faceless FC with 3 full fleet stacks. The enemy was me. They know Gideon Sendika, they know that name, that guy is roaming through my space, he's my enemy, I want to kill that enemy. And that personal relationship with your enemy, on both sides, festers so much commitment on both sides, compared to the full fleet stacks or when somebody's broadcaster that's killed at one person.
That doesn't sound like a projection problem. That sounds like a psychology problem.
Before we go into the psychology problem, Redline, I will say that this is now the overtime section of the show. And I know that some of the Euros, myself included, do have to run, but obviously there's going to be plenty more of this going on.
I mean, there might be. You know, you could drop off and then everyone else just follows you. They don't want to say.
I am a Euro, but I like watching people argue with each other, knowing that I don't have to worry about this for a year because I'm not running this year. So I just get to watch everybody else like slap each other.
We'll dial it if
We'll
we'll
drag
dial
you into
Luke,
it. We'll
the
get
summit meeting.
Peter to ask.
We'll put you
Please don't.
411 Luke Anon. You know, we're gonna get him into the call. Luke, we need you to solve this issue. This is your consult for the year.
No, I'm free. It's not my problem.
We're going to make sure you're not free.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have that choice.
Every single meeting, if any of the other ones get on, we'll be like, "Oh yeah, we should consult Luke on this."
Really talk to let's circle him back. You know,
every meeting.
Perversely extend my NDA. Thank you.
So, is there anyone who is heading off to run?
I think Phantom
by
Puce
now?
could probably. I think, but also if Puce is heading off, I kind of want to give him a bit of a chance to give some kind of thoughts as a CSM candidate that is actually running, even though he's the host of the show.
I kind of feel the need to stay if we're going to keep going.
Okay.
Right.
That's fine.
That's the thing. It's good conversation. I didn't want to cut it off. Cool. I have nothing else to do. I don't even know what time it is.
That doesn't surprise me.
Time? Hey, it's a Sunday. You know what? It's a Sunday. But
It's a Sunday. It's a work day tomorrow.
So what? It's 10. It's not 10:27. It is 6:27.
He's
Okay, fair enough.
Right?
I'm an American, dude. This is all I've got going for me right now as an American. All right, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the psychology of Ansiblux.
Should we do projection towards the No Kings riots that are going on?
Oh, good grief! No, we are not going to talk about that.
Projection towards my therapy, honestly. No, but I do want to say, and I've always thought that the fighting in this game is more psychologically driven than mechanically driven, because if there's a big grudge between two big groups, then you're obviously going to have an amazing hell war. But if it's just, we got to clear these guys out because they're trying to take our space, it's boring and no one wants to do it. They want to do it.
It might be amazing, but it's a little bit
here's the
easy
point, right?
to
I haven't
clog
even
it
made
down.
my point yet, so like I don't know.
But you were pointing out that the hell grind happens if people care about the part of space they're part
Mm-hmm.
of. And if you are a small group holding your own space and you are in that pocket, you are going to defend your space because it took you so much effort to actually establish the place in the first place. If you are now part of Goon Swarm, you have how many regions at this point? 8, 9, 10, 11? I don't even know anymore regions to go with. If one of the region falls, it doesn't even impact your everyday gameplay. And we can see that crystallized with Goon Swarm moving into Scalding Pass, Detorid, and Innsmother. Did the life change of the Horde pilots that used to, in the limited numbers they were in the border regions, that used to live there? Nobody cares even. Like, all these people just moved into the other 3 regions they already have. If you have a small alliance that has 1 or 2 or 3 constellations that they call their own, they're going to try to defend that as much as they possibly can, because that's the only space that they have, and it's the only space they can claim as their own. So people having a stake in their own space.
Here's the thing. I'm just going to jump in because you are long-winded. I love it, but you talk for a long time. But you're saying you're giving 2 arguments that are
the irony.
contradicting themselves. I know, right? But you're giving 2 arguments that are contradicting themselves because you're simultaneously saying that the groups that are trying to get in here are getting blobbed into oblivion when they try to take these outer regions of space. But then you're also saying that the groups that are living in them don't care about them. So, like, which is it? Do they care about them and defend them fervently, or
So
do they
No,
not
if
care
you can,
about
if
them?
you can
Should
move,
we look at the last few wars where everything is simply described as floodplains and people literally let space go,
I mean,
like
it's a
without
narrative-
any competition?
Exactly.
Like people do not care about space.
Yeah,
But
they
why
they
don't
care
they care
about their
about
space
space?
until they don't.
there's
have
also
so
like
much of
the
it. Nobody
problem
lives
where
there.
you can't really kill anyone in this game. Like, even when almost everyone in the game was against the goons, it's like the server stops the last couple of systems from dying as well. Like, if there was a little bit more resolving of conflicts, there might also be a little bit of breaking up of these groups. Like, we're currently on the wrong side of a bunch of regional gates against Horde, and they can jam things, they can jump into the perfect range to defend. And, like, basically, the reason why we're not throwing ourselves at it fully to, like, try to get them is because that won't work. And the same when we fought goons in World War B2, like, we deployed there. There wasn't, like, we lived 1 gate away from their capital, and still, like, we're not killing them. Like, the
Everybody is
floodplains also come
stacked
because
in a home
there's a
system.
combination of not caring about it dying, but also, to some extent, the things that you really care about dying, like, you can prevent them from dying. Like, the defender's advantage gets incredibly powerful in very big conflicts.
I mean,
it's probably also less satisfying, right, to the attackers if you're taking space that the enemy doesn't care about. But as we mentioned, these sort of grudge things, you want to feel like you're doing harm to your enemy. If you're taking a system that doesn't have anything in it.
Some of that's narrative, though, as well, right? Let's generally speaking, even if you have, you've only taken floodplains, it still has an impact. Nowhere is truly floodplains, right? Like, there are people that grab there are corps that are going to live there. They're not actually floodplains. So I think you have to go to now, whether they're worth trying to hold on to long term in a full on war is a different story, right? But to the average players that are living in that space, it's not floodplains. Just because an alliance decides to go, it's floodplains. I just wanted to make that point of, like, then a lot of this time they aren't actually floodplains, right?
I felt that was
Fountain was not a
damage.
floodplain during World War B, right? Init lived there, they ratted there. Yeah, they went, oh, it's floodplains, and we'll take it back. But let's be clear, it wasn't a floodplain, right? It was impactful for those people that lived there.
Like, killing 50 keep stars felt like it was doing damage.
Go on, please.
Cole Titus is leaving us, so I just wanted to give him a chance to have a last message before he pops off.
I do appreciate it. I know that I haven't really talked up too much here, specifically because this is a lot of nullsec and large group content, and that's not really what I have a whole lot of perspective on, and so haven't really had much to say in terms of the conversation here. But if anyone else who is watching would like to hear what I'm actually about, so I have different interviews that I've done in the past week or so. I have the CSM interview, Loru, Chad Squatch, and then maybe the 5 seconds that I talked while I was here too. Reach out to me if you want to talk about my stances, and thanks guys for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. Also, just to say, we lost Mick at some point in there, but also check out Mick's forum post, etc., to get more info on him.
Pretty sure I can say on his behalf his last words were, "He is a whole ass wormholer." So I get that on his behalf.
All right. So
It's always good
what's
to
ne-
hear
what-
about his arse. Yeah.
What's the next topic, boys? I think we talked about projection now for 35 minutes.
Well, I honestly do want to hear what you think could change about Citadel. Because Citadels are really important in nullsec. They are our primary battlefield, I would say. And I don't think that they are as fun as they could be. And I'm wondering what you would do to change that, if anything.
I don't know.
I don't know if the Citadel concept was a good introduction into the game, because I personally like the old stations more, even though like I had some disagreements with Fuse about this. I think stations in a way are sometimes more toxic fighting on them than actually a Citadel, because if somebody detethers and I tackle him, he cannot redock as long as I keep him tackled. If somebody aggresses on a station, he de-aggresses, he can dock even if he's scrammed or tackled. But why doesn't fighting happen even though there's tether on Citadels? I think the more important part there is the Citadel guns and the ECM and everything that you have directly on the Citadel is so powerful that there is no seed of conflict that can start from a small group. Because if I could tackle a Dreadnought on, let's say, a forward staged 40s from Fraternity, and the Citadel is not the answer to me tackling the Dreadnought, but they actually need to get people on top of that, that small tackle pilot can escalate into a fight very, very quickly because I'm stacking people in, the enemy side is stacking people in, and that can escalate to a bigger fight. So these small seeds of conflict are already not happening because the grid of the Citadel itself is so toxic to actually getting a fight started.
I mean, for me personally, I
can completely choose their position, which I think is a.
You think
I
that's
mean, it is a
conducive to
feature,
people
but
attacking?
the problem, and Gideon can correct me if if I'm misrepresenting the point, is you can capture a thing on the problem with the Citadels is you can capture a thing, but the problem with tether is it allows the attacker the defender to keep queuing up and
I don't
to their
mind tether.
position.
That's Fuse point. That's Fuse point. I actually do not mind tether because tether for me is an undock protection. And if I tackle something, he cannot dock if he de-aggresses. So that's why Citadels in that instance, Citadels are far superior to stations. Because what happens with stations, we know that in Farah is, if somebody lives in our station, we don't want them to live there, I'm going to go to Jita, buy a lot of Brutix Navy issues, Megaphone Navy issues, structure tank them, sit them at 0, and every time he undocks, I'm going to brawl them to death with structure tanked ships directly at 0. And if there's something that I cannot fight, I tell him hopefully to de-aggress and just dock within 1 minute, and I'm extracted. So
would it be more appropriate then if tether was limited to just being on the undock and not all around the Citadel?
You could decrease the ranges, and there could be a debate that positioning is not perfect, right? But I don't mind a spawn protection. Most games that are PvP based have some sort of spawn protection included, just because I remember that from having a bad computer. We are docking from a station.
We do have spawn protection though, Gideon, already.
Yeah, but I had such a bad computer in the past that if I undocked and there was a big fight going on, especially a big fight requires a lot of computer resources to load, that I would undock and would die before I even had my screen loaded.
Okay, no, that's a fair point.
We
Okay,
still have
as just throwing a wrench out there, if that protection was increased, like to say 2 minutes or something, because it's currently.
The reason why I don't want tether to be gone on that part as well, and I think people are mispointing something, is if I wouldn't have tether and I'm a medium-sized group, which I'm advocating for, and I'm undocking a Titan, that Titan is dead if I'm bridging. So you would take the bridging tool away from a medium-sized alliance. And I don't want to take bridging abilities away from medium-sized alliances, because otherwise there would just be a tool that would be used by the biggest of groups possible.
I think people were also talking about there being like, or this was what Phantomite said, where you undock and there is tether within, say, like 30 kilometers of the undock locations where you can get out.
I already considered that, right? Like you can talk about the size of the thing, but I don't think tether itself is such a bad mechanic. And what I would argue is the toxic part about Citadels is not really tether. Tether is just a spawn protection. You get the fight started, and once the fight started, the fight can keep going. It's the It's the defensive capability that prevents any fights from organically starting. You either have a timer fight, and then that's when a fight happens on a Citadel, but you don't have these fights that you get on stations where you're just undocking. It's like 5 people trying to find a weakness in the opposing side, maybe getting a bush off, and then escalating the fight further. Because Citadels themselves are so oppressive.
And the undock one doesn't really work right anyway, because if it's tether around an undock, if you look at like a fort and a keep star, there'd be multiple overlapping undocks depending on the class of ship at that point.
Arguably, that we do get fights. Like, I stage out of an NPC station a lot when I go blopsing, and we fight Frat on that undock all the time. It's a very different feeling and a very different type of fight too. Like, I think that there's still a room for like places where if you want to have tether, you need to like put your money where your mouth is, and like maybe Astros didn't have tether and Forts do. Or I'm not advocating for that in particular, but like it's a discussion where staging out of NPCs feels different. It's more of a small gang issue than say like the Titan staging.
This is what I argued before, because you put down an Astraeus plus core plus the EWAR fitting with neutralizer and ECMs, it's 4 billion, and it's so powerful that that grid is impossible to fight on, and you can stack infinite people into that structure. And I think the combination of the very, very strong EWAR capacity and getting rid of anything that could threaten something that is on a undock just is not conducive to getting smaller fights started on that grid.
What I'm going to say, guys, is that we're going to look to open next week's big show with tether as our topic, and we're going to go and get some final words from people now for this one here. Next week, guys, immediately following the Alliance tournament. Go on.
That's not what we're doing at all. We're staying right here to talk about EVE Online for as long as we fucking want to.
Well, we look forward to your monologue.
You'll be
on
in
that
a room alone at this point, so talking to
Sunday the 26th, our next show will be immediately following the Alliance tournament. Everybody's going to be able to enjoy the curated fighting of the Alliance tournament, followed immediately by the uncurated arguing and shouting of Untethered every week here on the New Eden Post. Final words. Let's go to. Tell you what, Drake, you go ahead. You give us your final thoughts before next week.
Tether's cringe. NPC stations are also cringe. Live the nomad life and just never dock is my final thing.
Is that what you do with your Python?
Yes.
And Jack.
Please, if you are watching this in order to find your favorite CSM candidate or who you want to vote for, talk to us. We love talking to players. We love getting ideas to bring forward to CCP. Like, there's always a little bit more time in the day to do so. And thanks for listening.
And Gideon?
I will use the same ones that I used on my CSM interview from CCP. CCP, fix NC-plexes.
Puke?
Thank you so much for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm doing chores right now, so I can. But if you guys would like to learn more about me and my platform, next week I will be hosting open office hours, basically Q&A for 2 hours a day until voting begins at 2300 till 0100 Eve time. You can join my campaign Discord below. Feel free to click on it for 2 hours every day. You want to yap with me, I'll answer any of your questions. And yeah, look forward to
As I am now a constituent rather than a member of the CSM, why didn't you fix antiplexes, Puke? Like, you were going about projection for like a year and you did nothing.
Dude, you know, I have to go to a Catholic priest and speak to my confession. For Father, I have sinned. So
wouldn't you burn?
What did I burn?
I'm also going to say, the Puce Moose, what's your final thoughts for us?
I'm so tired, man. I've been talking about Eve since like midday. Yeah, Ansoblex projection, obviously the biggest issue in the room. There are many other issues, so fingers crossed when that gets fixed in the first couple of weeks of CSM 20, we can move on to some other things, citadels, stale PvE, old systems, stuff like that. Check out everybody's forum posts. Check out my forum posts. There's links in them of where to find more about people. And remember, when you vote 10 times.
And Luke, the microphone is yours.
So yeah, it's been a really interesting weekend. Right? I've dedicated most of my weekend to my fiance's displeasure in watching pretty much every CSM interview, which was an experience because normally I don't, because I'm doing one and I don't want to watch everybody else do better than me. But it's been really interesting to hear everybody's general views, like even candidates that are first new to it, new players, and the level of passion of what they want to do to try and like improve the game, and whether what I think about their ideas is kind of irrelevant, right? The fact that everybody goes through this kind of mock election every single year to try and make this game better is kind of quintessentially what is good about this game, right? And the community of this game that want to see it carry on forward. I think it's been really good to see. Even if we argue with each other and disagree with each other on some things, I think everybody generally has what they think is best for the game at heart.
Thank you very much. Redline, thank you for running this, as ever. It's all yours.
All right, well, I'm going to raid somebody, but I have to wait 30 seconds stream and want to see reaction, right?
I know what you want. Because of recent things that happened over the last week on Twitch, I know what you're doing is you want to double check the stream and make sure it's not somebody who is a fetishist showing off something unusual and unsettling before you raid them.
I don't.
That did happen.
Or he's checking that they are showing something off.
I thought they were
unsettling,
checking
making sure
it's
he's going to raid them.
But
I thought he wanted to raid somebody with baby diapers.
Like Phantomite said, we do run this show every. Next week, Phantomite's not going to be on it because he's officially fucking fired. We're gonna find a new person to run the show because this one is broken. I'm just.
I was just
Next
brushing
week
my
we'll be
teeth.
joined
What
by
the fuck are you guys
Flantomite.
talking about?
Oh Lord, have mercy. Anyways, ladies
Mittens
and
is gonna
gentlemen,
take Phantomite's place.
Please God, no. Anyway, the raid's about to happen.
That's-
Remember to follow the channel. And,
yeah, follow the channel.
Now we
If
all
you're
wave.
here and you haven't followed the channel, why not? It's free. So subscribing
Start
with
waving.
Prime, give me your money or something like that.
Now
there
it's
you
all
go.
clear. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the money, and check out the YouTube and everything. I'm waiting for the ad, and it's almost done. I
It's
promise.
still going.
It's
Hey,
almost
what's it an ad for? What's it an ad for?
Red Bull, ironically.
Oh.
So anyways, we'll see you guys next week. All of us but Phantomite, who's fired. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Phantomite.